Have you ever thought of your day to day life as sacred? We all seem to be seeking or striving for more peace of mind. So let's talk about it. Thank you for joining the ZoliArt Montana podcast. My name is Linda, here with Zoli Althea Brown. Zoli, what do you think? How can we integrate routines that help us navigate the world with less trepidation?
When you said that, it's like this door opened up, and I thought, what would be more sacred than our daily life? Really. And ritual's important. But the older I get, maybe, and the longer I live in Montana, we've been here now 14 years. I think coming home to ourself, within ourself, is what we all want. No matter what political party, religious beliefs, sexuality, those the three big things that seem to divide us, we all want all over the world the same thing. And that's pretty much a sacred home life. We want peace of mind. We want enough food and water. We want a certain amount of wealth to take care of our needs. We want kindness. We all want the same thing. The way we're going about it doesn't always agree. But if we want all those things, I think that is what brings Maitreya into the inness of our heart, and we will see him on television. He will fulfill the prophecy about the Christ coming into the world by saying, all eyes will see him. You will see him on the television. Then what will happen is our daily lives will start getting straightened out. The first thing is enough food and water for people all over the planet. There's plenty. And when the masters say open the borders, they don't mean the borders of countries. They're talking about the borders of all the saved, these stockpiles of food and things. Just open it up, and that will happen. So our life is sacred, and what we're looking for is a path forward. Over the past couple of days, I have been in what I call a stasis period. You know, I don't do well with that. Because so-called nothing is happening externally. When we go through these periods, we tend to look around us and say, what do I need to change? Sometimes the plan of action is nothing. Sometimes the plan of action is to change inside of ourselves for more peace of mind. How do we do that? Oh my God, if I had the answer to that, I don't. The peace in the family, the peace with our health, our wealth, and what our wealth, I don't mean billions, I mean enough, that we have enough. And everybody wants that. So the daily life is the sacred thing. And I think ritual is very important in that. I don't mean going into a church or mosque or synagogue or what. I mean the ritual of daily life. I am reminded lately that it helps me. I don't know about y'all, but it helps me to have daily times. And I talked about this before. When I do certain things, I do best if I eat my first meal about 10:30, 11 in the morning. I'm good with that. Take my vitamins, drink some water. I like to protect my mornings. People that are on a certain path, if you can do that, it's very helpful. With 6 kids, you ain't protecting shit. So there are moments, and what's rich about that statement, to protect yourself, is that you have awakened from a time of sleep where you are out there doing something else. You're in a time of stasis, right? You bring into your daily life memories of that. And it can happen you can be washing a dish. You can be taking laundry out of the dryer. You could be mowing the lawn, and all of a sudden you feel this peace of mind, this love. And what happens? We are out of space and time. The world is perfect in our life when that happens. We want it all the time. It's not reality for our life to have that all the time. Since the 1960s, I'd say, narcissism, in my view, in the Western world has gotten way out of hand. That we demand what we want. We think we have a right to it. We deserve, which means we deserve. So it disrupts our daily life and our daily rhythm. There's a simplicity to not getting everything we want because that is the desire body. That's the emotions. It can come from the mind also. Your mind, your body, and your emotions are what dies each time, but it goes into your next body, your astral body. So those three things are for this life. And when you are so-called dead on the next realm, you're still living this life. If you do shitty things as a ghost, there's karma for that. We talked about that in the radio show. We all want to focus on what can we do to move ourselves forward. We do it all the time. I had an uncovery this week. I call that because it's not a discovery. It's been there, Zoli. You just ain't seen it, girl. My uncovery was this. I had been praying and asking, why do I do this emotional Cancer moon thing, Cancer South Node, ruminate on the past? And I got the answer for me. Maybe it'll help you. I do that because the future that I see isn't here yet. So I'm going to something with the optics and the chatter. I remember that. Maybe it's shitty. Maybe it's wonderful. But I'm wanting to, shall I say, break myself of that. The only way for me to do that is to say in my daily life, when something comes up from my past, that I watch myself go there. Why are you going there? To watch it and ask myself. Now, in your subconscious mind, I have a wonderful friend who does body code, emotion code. She works on Sophia, Montana, my cat, a lot. Her name's CJ Plotman. She's in Helena. She said, our brilliant subconscious mind remembers everything. So when you are going through your day and you have ritualistic behavior, and if you have kids, you do. If you have certain times that you're going to feed them, that you're going to take them to school, or if you homeschool, do their lessons, meet with other people. If you work, you have meetings. These are rituals. And we can deify or vilify them, all depending on what our emotional state of mind. So when we come into these bodies, we get this emotional body that allows us to learn what we feel about things. And where was I going that? My uncovering about feeling things instead of, I think that's what it gets down to. If I can feel while I'm thinking of Joe Blow back in Birmingham, Alabama, where I grew up in 1962, who pushed me down the playground. Why are you thinking about that, Zoe? Well, a lot of times we think if we go back there and think about it enough, we're going to fix it. But it's the past. So CJ talks about the brilliant subconscious mind, has all those memories. How do we reprogram that? I don't know if that's the right word. But if you ask yourself a question, that continual mind wants to answer it. So if I say to myself, why is it so easy to stay in the present? Why is it so easy to feel good? Why is it so easy to heal my knee I hurt? Why is it so easy, this, and this? It sounds crazy, but it does seem to work to some extent. So that's one way that we can say in the present that I can live in the present. I can say it and I can live here and I can move myself into the future without bullying myself about the past. Does that make sense?
Does make sense. And it's quite comforting because it takes the pressure off. And instead of seeking out there all the time, we just have to go within and we just have to take it one moment at a time, really.
Yeah, and it cycles. I know everything does. Everything cycles. It's a wave form. It's a pattern. It's not a field or it's consistent like gravity. Things change night, day, the seasons, and so do our moods. The old joke in what in psychology says, if you're in a bad mood, wait 20 minutes. Well, if I'm in a good mood, wait 20 minutes too, see what comes up next. But we do this stuff, and I think that is how we move into the future.
Yeah. And it feels less competitive and less stressful so that we're kind of working on our day to day as a ritual. So we're not having to follow other people's rules, I guess.
Yes, and that's very common. I would ask you, I'm not a mother, but as a mother raising three boys, what kind of daily rituals did you find works?
Encouraging and having kids participate in the day to day maintenance and how you run a house is really important because it helps them learn to take care of themselves. And kids from all ages can have chores. The littler they are, the less helpful they are, but they're more willing to help. So it goes both ways. And it really, there can't be gender rules. There just has to be, these things need to be done because we live here. And so everybody in the family is going to take part in helping do it. I have three sons. So one thing that I think is pretty cool is every day I ask, who's the dish dude today? Who gets to do the dishes? And so it's a dish dude. And that's every day one of the three does dishes. And every day one of the three does vacuuming. And then, of course, they have other things. And obviously we talk about, well, I don't want to. I'd rather be playing. I'd rather be doing something fun. But it's about, well, this is something that you do to maintain. I never really talked to it about ritual, but I see that now as helping maintain a daily practice.
I think the word ritual, I love that. I love that idea of spiritualizing our day, things that we do. Now, remind me of that when I got 8 loads of laundry to do when a grandson comes. Because I will not feel like it's a ritual. I feel like I'm doing laundry. But we know that we're doing it for what? A higher purpose. You teach your sons to do that for the higher purpose of the whole, the good, the higher good. And that is what's coming in this world. When we see Maitreya and all eyes will see him at the day of declaration, that is saying the world is unified in body, mind, and spirit, at least spiritually and ritualized. And that will allow us to walk on tiptoes for a short while afterwards. Then we'll be back at it. But the ritual, the idea of bringing God idea, spirit idea, Holy Mother, earth, water, wind, fire, whatever you believe in that is true for you, you are deifying your day. And that is a very powerful thing to do. After the day of declaration, we will see the world starting to change with food, clothing, shelter, water, needs, health needs, then education, then the arts, and all. There are people that are already assigned to those things to do. The United Nations, the overarching field, will become more than what it is now. It's a mess right now, but that will become a deifying field for the world. It will be the storage place of ideas, and it will say, you have more cotton in this country, they need oil, you're going to trade. You have more corn, they need this. It's going to be a bartering, and it's not going to be, well, that's more than that. Something's going to shift. So we have to believe in the power of good, right? We have to believe that. Kids do. They know this already. They come into this. I just saw one of the videos by Chase Hughes, and he's brilliant to me. Yeah, he's way over my head. But he said something I didn't know, that up to about age 9, and we've discussed age 9 before as being a transition time, he said kids live in theta. The brain is in theta. What the heck? That's like this deep sleep. You are a sponge for information. That's how the universe created people to be. You are learning, you are growing, you are asking these questions. Why? Guess what? I know this, I learned that. And then at age 9, it's like, whoa, I got a lot of that. Then 9 to 14 can be challenging years. You got hormones kicking in. You have boys, their hands and feet get bigger. They're growing. They're clumsy. Girls might get their moon. It's a big time of transition. It's difficult. My husband says that middle school in the United States that's the hellhole. That's when all the stuff comes apart. And then you have to start putting it back together. But there are reasons about that. And to think that there are brain waves and there are neurotransmitters when we add God to this piece of world, add God to this piece that we are looking at, that we're bored with. What is that? It's there anyway, but do we see it? And what part of the brain is being activated? You see, it's all these neurotransmitters. There are people that know about that. I don't. I'm just learning about it even more. It drives me crazy. I'm not great at it because I get bored. I do.
Well, we really do need to be aware of the self-talk we have around things. Like you're talking about how the doing dishes, and if we bring in a gratitude, I get to do these dishes. And that means that my family ate a meal and I have dishes and a house and all these things to be thankful for rather than it being a chore or a drudgery.
Yeah, I'm doing an interesting kind of experiment. You picked up on that. That now, and I've mentioned before that I'm doing a new ritual that one of the Etsy psychics named Luna taught me about. She said it ritualizes my day. Before I go to sleep, before I even say my prayers, my rituals, I say the day is done. And I might hold my hand, turn on the tap, hold my hand, let the water run through it. It energizes you. Say the day is done. Thank you for the day. And it brings me into my body. Yesterday during the day, I'm driving in town, said it's 11:12. I'm driving around my community in Missoula. I'm going to the good food store. And I'm like, wow, it keeps my mind from going, zzz, which it tends to do. And I can make that noise a lot, by the way. Then when I wake up in the morning, I go, the night is done. So am I remembering to do that every day? No, but I'm working on it. But I'll catch myself during the day. And what it's doing is bringing me back into my body.
It really does sound like a profound and grounding practice. And if we can add those little things in, then it makes it just easier to be in our day.
It's like reality checks. I used to do that years ago when I'd space out so I need a reality check. What day, what time, where am I? What am I doing that brings me into my body? But this is a more profound thing for me to do. And I am learning a deeper way of living. I'm learning a way of when I'm in my body, things spread out. Now, that's a theory that, God, in the 70s, Dr. Adrian Clark and he was up at NASA in Huntsville, the research that we were doing on Wheeler superspace theory, this and that. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was just transmedium. But I was given from somebody the words lateral reality manipulation. And what that is when you are present, reality is not the future and the past. It starts getting fatter and spreading out. It's like all of a sudden I'm Jabba the Hutt. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And that way you're more present. And I think it's almost like we're more available for the God force, universe, whatever it is, the universe, whatever you want to call it. And I'm reticent to give that a name. But that allows more space within myself for that to fill in. Does that make sense?
It really does make sense. And as I reflect on the idea of it spreading out, it feels like it's because you're there in it. You're not just on the highway. I guess it's like you're on the highway and you go zip past a town, you don't even see the city or anything about it. But when you're actually in it, you get to experience the atmosphere, the intricacies of their most beautiful park, I guess.
Oh, that's very well put. I think at age almost 72, I'm getting more comfortable being in the body. I'm getting more comfortable. I spend a lot of time out there doing this or that. I'm always writing. I have all these notebooks everywhere. It's very immature and ridiculous, but I do it. This is causing me to feel more, to stay present more. And when I do that, I find more joy in life. I'll let you know how that goes. It's a new experiment. Why wasn't I always doing that? I don't know.
How do you think are some ways that people can do that when they're in more of a survival state?
Oh, I don't know if you can.
You can't just have to get to the survival.
That's a very tender subject, because if we're in the survival mode, there's a reason that we're in it. Now, that can be a PTSD thing to where we're just activated. We are in orange or red for some reason. It can be that we really need to protect ourselves because we've intuited something is dangerous. And I think at that time, you are in your body in a different way. You're thinking, you freeze. Then do I need to get away? And then do I need to fight? So I don't think that's the time to meditate. I think there are times when that's really appropriate. Now, that said, if it's a recurring thing to where we are always looking for the danger and there is none, that's something to address, I think, with someone that is in a counseling profession.
One thing that's compelling about that is we are often told we're in a survival state. We're told that it's the scariest time in the world. We're told there's a disaster after a disaster. So maybe it's more of a going back within and reflecting on, like you say often, no. And is the war zone out there? If it is, we're not talking to you, obviously. But for most people, when they look out their window, life is existing as it has been for a while.
Yeah, we tend to press our inner world on the outside. And yeah, the world's a mess. That's very true. But is your personal life a mess? There are times we go in and out with it, like I expressed right now. I'm in this tension, this stasis period. I'm thinking, is something going to happen? Well, things are happening all the time, Zoli. Don't be an idiot. So I'm in a state of anticipation. And then that goes away. And there's great comfort in that. Good and evil, once again, are poured into the same cup, and we drink it unaware. You can hold two opposing things in your mind and your heart and your being. They can both be true. And you can be right and wrong. So can these other people. It's all perspective. So I think what we're looking for is this daily life of this peace of mind to develop a habitual pattern of how do you pull yourself back away from the doomsday scrolling out in the world, or searching for danger, or always having to be a prepper. What are you preparing for? And I'm not saying don't do that. I think that's smart. When in history have we not had some kind of food and water and things stored up? When? This is very unusual. Now, the internet, YouTube, Meta, all that, these are communication devices. It's a way to communicate. But whatever is being communicated, we will receive what we are looking for and what we believe in. These are programs from our childhood. We talked about this in recovery groups, that we are pretty much fully programmed as kids by subconscious, by conscious, by behavior, by this and by that. Then we have to pull ourselves out of it. That's what adulting is about. That's why the age is 14. It's so difficult. Because we're going, wait a minute, maybe that's not me. Well, yeah, it is. I want you to be like that. Well, I don't want to be like that. So life is horrible and wonderful at the same time.
How can we get better at seeing the sacred in our day-to-day?
Oh, I think it's a feeling. I would say, what in your childhood brings you great joy that you remember? For me, one of my happy places is we had this beach house in Pensacola. Birmingham to Pensacola, at that time, it was maybe a 6-hour drive. Went through Flomaton, Atmore down there, right through Pensacola, into Pensacola, which is on the Gulf of America down there, right on the edge. So that to me is a happy place, and I had happy memories there. And I can go into a meditation and I can almost smell the salt air and feel how happy the family was. Daddy, we would get up in the morning and go, let's go to the seafood shop. And we'd get in the car and go to the seafood shop. And the guy that ran it, got his bare feet, concrete floor. It was really cold in there. And these big trays of fresh caught seafood were there. Now, living in Montana, that's pretty heavenly. We're landlocked here. I think you guys aren't there too.
We are indeed.
These are feelings that creates emotion and memory and neurotransmitters. Maybe you remember a grandparent that you loved, or maybe you had a pet. We all have I hope we all have some kind of memories like that. Those are sacred times. They bring us into divinity. And it's very personal. I don't know what's right for anybody else. But to start with that and say, what in your life? What brings you some kind of joy? That's an age-old thing to do. It doesn't have to be reading scripture or meditating or oming or playing basketball. It can be something that's very private to you. And I think in a way it should be.
Yeah, there's so much wisdom in reminding people that their personal choice and preference is what's right for them. And there's no one size fits all answer.
I have to remind myself of that too. Because my insecure Zoli side will think, well, I need to do that. That person looks happy. I'll try that. Why? That's just another person doing their thing. Maybe they got that from somebody else. Maybe it's 8th generation happy. And the first person that was doing it isn't even doing it anymore. We're all insane. We're just nuts. So you have to find something that's private, and you don't have to share that with everybody. And I think that is a sacred point. The intimacy, the emotional sharing between husband and wife, the emotional sharing, that is your intimacy, where you have certain feelings or jokes, or when you mention a certain place, it's a private joke. You don't need to share that with everybody. You don't need to be posting what you just ate for dinner. Did you have a big poop afterwards? Nobody needs to hear that. But if you're lonely, you're going to do that. I would rather.
Yeah, we're in a time of oversharing now.
I would rather die 1,000 deaths, the old Southern lady I am. Oh my God. Are you kidding?
And we're programmed now to overshare and not even know. It's like we share everything about our lives without even knowing ourselves.
That's a brilliant statement. There's a bumper sticker. There is a lot of sharing and oversharing, TMI, without knowing who we are. And maybe that's a way of finding who somebody is. Maybe somebody is doing that and wanting to share. Wait till AI kicks in. Oh my God. There are going to be people marrying their AI husband. That's psychotic, but not everybody. But loneliness does that. We anthropomorphize things and we personalize things that have no emotion or no feeling and no heartbeat.
We're so eager for connection that we don't see the connections we actually have, and we try to make connections with things that aren't real.
There it is. There's the truth statement. That when we feel loneliness, and there's a lot of that, maybe there always has been. We don't value and spread out into the present and take that moment and take that time. That's very wisely put.
Yeah.
So how do we do it? What would you suggest? I mean, you've raised 3 kids. You live in a high testosterone environment with a husband and 4 boys.
Well, I think the answer to loneliness is often you're not comfortable being alone. So when you love yourself, I tell my kids, I've told them since before they were born, be who you are. When you're able to be who you aren't as lonely because you're with your true self. Maybe I'm wrong. That's just my thoughts.
That's very well put. My mom always used to say that, to thine own self be true. Just be who you are. And when I would say, well, I don't know who that is, she'd say, well, then be somebody you like at first and you'll get it. We try on all these different hats. And maybe what this is, I'll do the Pollyanna thing where I'm looking at the good side of loneliness and the internet. Maybe this is the new modern way of finding more about how we are. I don't know. Is there anything wrong with having all your friends on the internet? Or, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's part of the future. Maybe that's how that person is. I don't really know. It would drive me crazy to do that. I like the human contact. I like to feel the auric feel of the other person. And if they've got a dog, oh my God, you know, I know everybody's dog's name before I remember theirs, but I love animals. But there's something about like holding a book rather than holding a pad. I rarely hold a book anymore. And I've addressed it as a research analyst. I used to have libraries in my home of books. I don't have that anymore. I have maybe a cat. Well, there's some on the floor. Don't lie, Zoli. I've got like 12 piled here and 8 over there. Don't lie. But I've got the internet. And so I hold the tablet. That is how things are. We're moving into that. What about cursive writing? It's easier to write cursive than it is to print, but we're in a phase now where we don't teach that anymore. So these things will turn around and they'll come around. I don't know how. It's just a big experiment. But we need that personal confirmation from us. And if we're uncomfortable being by ourselves, maybe we can ask, what do I want? What am I looking for? Do I just need human touch? Do I just need to be with people? What do I need? And it can become a habitual pattern. You know, there are many, many people living alone, especially older females. And I don't know the answer to that. I just don't.
It's really curious to think about how we're so much more connected, but yet at the same time, we're even more disconnected.
Well, the good and evil poured into the same cup. I think it's always been like that. You know, I joke and say, let's say there's a family and they live in Boston. I guess Boston was there in the 1700s, you know, and they're going to go west, young man, manifest destiny. They're going to go. They heard about something in San Francisco. You know, they get on the wagon train. You're never going to see them again. Really, it can take, or you get on a ship. You're in England and you get on a ship and you're going to land in New York. How long did that take? So communication has changed and time is compressed now into these segments of, what would you call it? Of how do we connect with the next one? And I think before we couldn't do that as fast. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. We were more in the moment because we didn't have so many options open to us.
And there was something that's happening with time and the earth. Now, supposedly, one of the reasons that the earth is heating up, one of the big reasons, there are 3 suns. There is the sun that we know of that generates heat, and the friction of it generates light. And the heat is created on the earth, the friction of the earth plus the sun, it creates the heat. You go to Mount Everest, it's colder up there. There's not as much friction, right? So there's that sun. Then there's an internal sun, whatever that means, a spiritual sun. I'm not using the right names, but there's 3. One of those, somebody correct me which one it is moving towards what is called a central sun. So the earth is heating up. We will have a time where this earth is a lot warmer. The ice ages are over. What was the last ice age? 10,000 years ago, the warm Wisconsin glaciation? I don't know. I don't know. Something like that.
Yeah, it is. And so we're heating up. How does that relate to time?
Because we're moving into I want to use the right word in this. We're moving into a compression. We're moving into a compression where time and space are becoming more compressed. And if that doesn't make sense, it's because I really don't understand it. But a lot of people say, well, it feels like time is speeding up.
Yes.
So I don't know why that is, but global warming, there's clearly global warming. I don't know if it's a non-political situation or a political situation, But something is happening also to where the glaciers will melt and there will be more water available on the planet. I'm not going to get into that whole big thing, but is that just a natural pattern? We don't know. Now we need to clean up this world. All the plastics, especially in Asia and UAE and India. Oh my God, I'm not going to get into that because that's not going to be fixed today. But I think what we're looking at is this compression of time. The earth is heating up. And what happens? It's easier for humans to live in heat than it is in ice, right? Now, that said, if it's hot, you can only take off so many clothes and fan yourself. If it's cold, you can put on a lot of clothes. But most people live in areas of the world that aren't covered in ice. Look at the southern climates. That's a whole nother subject. So something's happening, and this is all connected. I don't understand it. I'm trying. I'm probably making a big mess of it.
Well, it's reasonable to think about how it's all connected because if time is speeding up, then it's even more crucial that we learn how to get into the moment where it spreads out laterally.
I think so. I mean, I'm uncomfortable talking about this whole earth, heat, time, space, because I don't understand it. I really don't. Interdimensional physics addresses it, which is one of my fields, but not in those terms. They say that the science of the future is artistic and the art of the future is more scientific. So we are combining things and melding things. And I think that's part of what this extreme heat is going to do. I don't know. I'm just theorizing. As I said, I'm uncomfortable talking about it because I'm just bloviating in a way.
Well, it's a really curious phenomena because we have to make some choices. Obviously, things are going in a chaotic manner in a lot of ways. So the world is changing. What does that mean for us as individuals? What does that mean for us as humanity?
Yeah, both those things are important. There are no easy answers to it. There just aren't. But a lot of things happen at one time, right? They just happen at one time. Things are speeding up so fast in a way, and I can't explain why, that maybe that's why things are so chaotic. Now, that said, 7 rays, ray 1 is very active right now. It is the ray of destruction, which says you want to build a new building, you got to tear down the old one. We're seeing the structures go away. And when we don't have the structures in place, which is institutions, old belief systems, where do you go with it? Where you're going to speed up and panic and go out there and look for something else to replace it. So in a way, we have to live empty for a while. And that also is a choice. But no matter what happens, I think it's helpful to be more within and find out a way, how are we going to deal with this on a personal basis? On a unified global basis, we do that through like-minded others. Montana has a wonderful food bank network. Oh my God, they're wonderful at it. Missoula Food Bank is amazing. And a lot coming through there. So that's one way that you're doing that globally. They have to respond to global changes. And your personal needs will feed into that because that is what causes the global changes, collective of personal needs.
So when we're doing our small daily rituals and enjoying our spiritualizing matter in our own lives, we really are making a difference to the world. When we think about changing the world and starting within ourselves, it may not be evident, but it's happening.
Oh yeah, everything counts. And that's amazing to me. Everything counts. Your subconscious, as CJ says, your brilliant subconscious mind remembers everything from this life and it is recorded in your soul. It's in there somewhere from every life you've had. That's a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of experience, but we don't need it all at once. We are here to learn to serve the higher good, not the narcissistic belief of hedonism of saying, I just need this right now, so I'm going to go get it no matter what the cost. There's a lot of that happening, and it's fear that does that. It's fear of lack, fear of alone, fear of not having, of not being. So when we work within ourselves first, we will magnetically attract to us electrically. It'll come to us, to our magnetism, like-minded others. People who believe as we do, at least in certain ways, not every way, that's insane, but where you can work with a higher ideal. That's how we work in groups, and you have that higher ideal. That's why in the recovery groups, the hundreds of meetings I've been to, we read the 12 steps, we read the traditions, and that meeting is dedicated to higher power. And that's what we're looking at. That's what we're looking for in a family unit. When you teach your kids, who's the dish dude and who's going to vacuum, who's going to do this. You are doing it for what? For higher power of the family. That's a higher value thing. You're not doing that just because you yourself want that done. You do, but you're in charge of delegating that. And I think there are people in groups, and I see this more and more. There is so much good that's coming from higher power infusing groups to say, we totally disagree politically. I don't like your nose ring, your green hair. Well, I don't like your Trump sticker. I don't like your truck. All of that melts away when we remember that we want the same thing. We want that peace of mind. And that's what that higher power is. That day is coming. Mark my words. When Maitreya is standing on television with some of the masters, I think there are 64 who are working with the world right now. And they say, we're here for you. We will show you a better way. Now you choose. And that's what higher power is.
What a beautiful world and hope for the future. And the fact that right now it's happening in collaborations all over.
It is. And the fact that what's happening now and the future that I told you about, what's happening now is already in the past. The future that I talked about that is so beautiful and hopeful and kind and loving, it's already happened on the higher realms. The day of declaration, it's already happened. Now it's filtering down from the spiritual realms into the mental, into the astral, and into the physical. It's already here.
How do we have patience and hold on when things just feel like one yucky chore after another?
There are times that, that's just what life on earth is, because we get emotionally involved in this stuff. I would love to be so conscious every second of the day that okay, I'm awake. Now I'm going to go take my vitamins. I'm going to do this and that. And I'm delegating to myself the divinity of just being in a body. You have to remember, there are 60 million souls that are available for incarnation. We have 8.5 million on the planet. It's an honor to be here. It's not a right to be alive. It's a grace and it's a gift. So what are you going to do with this gift? What are you going to do with it? If I remembered that every second of the day, I'd never be in a bad mood. My husband would love that.
That's a really good point, because so often the things that we think are doing are unimportant. They're the most important thing we need to be doing. Especially, I think moms are, they think, oh, I have to be doing parent service and all I'm doing is keeping my kids alive day to day. Well, that's the thing. And so just being in your body and figuring out is the thing that you need to be doing.
That is the prayer and that is the service, but you're not alone with it. And many times we want prayer that we are alone. We are talking to divinity, and meditation we are receiving from divinity. Prayer is a very electrical thing. Father, Mother, God, there's a reason for that. And the meditation, we can take time. I'm practicing that. I'll let you know how it goes. My God, if I could only figure this out. during the day to say, thank you for this, Spirit. I'm glad that I'm alive, and I'm glad that I'm here. Maybe that's what it takes. I don't have the answers.
Well, as usual, we have more questions than answers. But that idea of showing gratitude or saying thank you throughout the day is a very small thing that we can add in, and it really helps.
That gratitude is so important. And what it is it stops time. It stops it. Thank you for this gift of just, I'm breathing. I'm alive. All you have to do is know somebody that's at death's door, somebody that's got a bad disease, somebody that's having huge financial troubles. Those are hard things to go through. And the fact that you're not going through that right now, that is a gift. Who knows what's coming in the future? So to develop a spiritual bank account that you can pull upon, I think is hugely important.
I like that visual of a spiritual bank account. Fill it up.
The bank of God. I don't know. These little golden muffin, golden threads going to little joy muffin. Deposit more in there. And it does make sense. It really does add up. Because if we have built up an energy field, literally an energy field of more and more and more gratitude, more and more a bank account where it spreads out to where we can literally pull on that when we need it. I have experienced it. That counts. It makes a difference. If we're living in a sour state of mind and we don't know how to do that, I hope to God you can find some help of somebody telling you how to at least learn what that is. And we may go through phases of that. Maybe people grew up to where they weren't given those gifts of spirit. A lot of people have. They've had horrible childhood, awful, the formative years. How do you change that? It's very hard. It's very hard. This is not easy stuff I'm talking about. And I'm not minimizing this, saying, oh, it's so wonderful. You always need to do this and that. I don't know. I don't know. Here I am up on the mountain in Montana, dressed in silly clothes and a ton of makeup. I'm trying myself as some kind of hope that there is help and there is hope. And no matter what happens, you will always be yourself. And there's something inside of you that you can grab onto and you can make that bigger. And that's what we're talking about. Just make it bigger. I want to give light. I want to give hope, to say that there is always hope. And you can't just quit because it's not there right then. You have to try. Life is very hard, very hard. It's not supposed to be easy. And if you're looking at people that you think have more, their life looks easy, well, you might want to spend some time with them when they're not online, or when they're not doing this, or when they're this or that. We all have pretty much the same emotions and a lot of the same issues. And if somebody's presenting to you that their poop doesn't stink, I guarantee it does, because that's the nature of poop.
So true. Our experiences are often more difficult than we let on, and we like to put on a brave face like everything's going great in our lives, but it's not always the case.
It's not, and I think it's a good thing not to overshare. How are you today? I'm doing well, or I'm having a challenging time, or my life's always good because I make it that way. To say those things in public, you don't have to dump everything on people, because then you will lower their frequency too. So I think it's good to present yourself as something that is hopeful and kind. You never know that you can change somebody's life just by being there for them in the grocery line. It happens. Life is weird.
Well, there's so much hope in that. And thank you for always reminding us that it's the little things that make life beautiful.
Well, you're welcome. I need to hear that too. They say that we talk about what we want to do and what we want to know the most. Well, of course, we're all nuts. But it is love and it is light, and it's always there. Always there. And I wish that for everyone.
and just be open to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Take care, everyone.